So do we have a call and response for the word to word?
I follow you.
Oh, okay, Mother, sure.
Okay.
So word to word translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Phala
Vikrayini.
The aborigine fruit vendor who was an elderly woman.
The Aborigine fruit vendor who was an elderly woman.
Tasya
Of
Krishna.
Jadanya.
The paddy he brought to barter having mostly fallen.
The paddy he brought to barter having mostly fallen.
Karadvayam. Palms of the hands. Phalai apurayat. The fruit vendor filled his small palms with fruits.
The fruit vendor filled his small palms with fruits.
Ratnaihi. In exchange for jewels and gold. Phalabandam. The basket of fruit. Apuricha. Filled. Translation. While Krishna was going to the fruit vendor very hastily, most of the grains he was holding fell. Nonetheless, the fruit vendor filled Krishna's hands with fruits, and her fruit basket was immediately filled with jewels and gold. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 26, Krishna says, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati tadaham bhakti uparitam asnami prayatatmanaham. Krishna is so kind that if anyone offers him a leaf, a fruit, a flower, or some water, he will immediately accept it. The only condition is that these things should be offered with bhakti. Yo me bhaktya prayachati. Otherwise, if one is puffed up with false prestige, thinking, I have so much opulence and I am giving something to Krishna, one's offering will not be accepted by Krishna. The fruit vendor, although a woman belonging to the poor aborigine class, dealt with Krishna with great affection, saying, Krishna, you have come to me to take some fruit in exchange for grains. All the grains have fallen, but still you may take whatever you like. Thus she filled Krishna's palms with whatever fruits he could carry. In exchange, Krishna filled her whole basket with jewels and gold. From this incident, one should learn that for anything offered to Krishna with love and affection, Krishna can reciprocate many millions of times over, both materially and spiritually. The basic principle involved is an exchange of love. Therefore, Krishna teaches in the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 9, text 27, Yat karoshi yadashnasi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat purushvamadarpanam. O son of Kunti, all that you do, all that you eat, all that you offer and give away, all well, as all austerities that you may perform, should be done as an offering unto me. With love and affection, one should try to give something to Krishna from one's source of income. Then one's life will be successful. Krishna is full in all opulences. He does not need anything from anyone. But if one is prepared to give something to Krishna, that is for one's own benefit. The example given in this connection is that when one's real face is decorated, the reflection of one's face is automatically decorated. Similarly, if we try to serve Krishna with all our opulences, we, as parts and parcels or reflections of Krishna, will become happy in exchange. Krishna is always happy, for he is Atmaram, fully satisfied with his own opulence. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Hare Krishna. So this morning, as we just read, we are reading from the 10th canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 11, text 11, and this is that famous historic section of the fruit vendor pastime. And very interestingly, we find Shukadev Goswami covers the whole pastime in just 2 verses. Verse 10 and verse 11, that's it. In 2 verses, he finishes off the whole pastime. And our predecessor Acharyas, they comment to this by saying that the reason Shukadev Goswami uses only 2 verses to cover the whole pastime is Shukadev Goswami feels to himself that if he gets into the details of these childhood pastimes of Krishna, he will not be able to finish the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam. Because here is Parikshit Maharaj, this is day 5 and Canto 10 is being discussed. So if he gets into the details of these pastimes, he will not be able to cover the whole of Srimad Bhagavatam. So Shukadev Goswami, somehow, as an ecstatic Bhavuk speaker, he controls himself and just in 2 verses finishes off this whole pastime. And I think this is a pastime that we have all heard multiple times. This is a pastime that we very well in many ISKCON temples we find the painting is there as to how Krishna in his small baby hands has fruits while the basket of the fruit vendor is filled with jewels. But there are small details that our predecessor acharyas give, like Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Shripad Sanatan Goswami, Srila Jiva Goswami, and other commentators to these pastimes. They elaborate a little more on these pastimes. So along with the Bhaktivedanta purports, we will be also taking help of these predecessor acharyas to just set the scene to understand this pastime a little more in depth. So just to set the scene, the Damodar Leela has just taken place. The historic Damodar Leela, the Damodar pastime that we are going to celebrate in another few days from now, the Kartik month, that historic Damodar Leela has just taken place. Dam means wooden grinding mortar, and Udara in Sanskrit means belly. So Krishna's belly is bound by the ropes of Maya Yashoda's pure love. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes Evam sandarshitha yanga harina britya vashyatam swavashenapi krishnena yasyedam sa ishwaram vashe. Our Shri Krishna, he has a name called as Britya Vashyatam. He is Swatantra. If you see in the start, introductory verses of Bhagavatam, Krishna is called as independent. He is Swarat. But that same Krishna, he comes under the control of his own devotees. Because in the 9th canto, in the pastime of Maharaj Ambarish, Krishna himself, he says, Aswatantra ivo dvija sadhubir grastaradayam bhakter bhakta janapriya. That Krishna who's Swarat, who's fully independent, he becomes dependent. He comes under the control of his own devotees. So this quality of Sri Krishna is called as Britya Vashyatam. He comes under the control of his own devotee. And in this pastime of Damodar Leela we find he came under the control of his own mother, of his own Maya, Mother Yashoda, because Krishna was so naughty. Maya Yashoda tied his belly with the ropes of pure love. So that is the scene. Krishna is about 3 years, 3 years young, because Krishna never gets old. Krishna is 3 years young. And at this point, Maya Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and the Brajavasis, they have not yet moved to Vrindavan. They are still there in Gokul Mahavan. They are still there in Gokul Mahavan. They have not moved to Nanda Mahal. They have not moved to Vrindavan, so to say. And the Damodar Leela has just taken place. We find in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami beautifully describes. He says, Mata more putra bhave kare na bandhan, atihi na jnana kare lalana palan. Mata more putra bhave. Krishna is saying this words. He's saying, Mata more putra bhave. My mother considering me a normal child. She considers me a child. And putra bhave kare na bandhan. She ties me. Ati hi na jnana kare. She thinks I am very helpless. Just like any normal child, she thinks I am also very helpless. And lalana palan. She not just considers me helpless, but she also takes care of me. She nourishes me and she makes sure that whatever I want, everything is maintained. So we find this reference of Damodar Leela is not just made in Bhagavat, but it is also made in the pages of Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita by Srila Kaviraj Goswami. So that is the scene right now. The Damodar Leela has just taken place and this news has spread in every village of Brajmandal. And when we say Brajmandal, there are various villages of Brajmandal that go all the way up to Mathura. And in the outskirts of Mathura, there lived a lady, a tribal lady. Her name is not given, of course. We find Prabhupada also does not give the name, and likewise our predecessor Acharyas also do not give the name. But in the outskirts of Mathura, there lived a tribal lady, an aborigine lady. And in Sanskrit, this is called as Pulinda class. And we find this reference of Pulinda is there in the pages of Bhagavatam itself. In the second canto of the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 2, Chapter 4, Text 18, Shukadev Goswami, he gives different classes of people. And there he makes this point of Pulinda. He says, Kirata Hundara Pulinda Pulkasha Abhira Shumbha Yavana Kasadaya Yene cha Papa Payashraya Shraya Shuddhyanti Tasmai Prabhaveshnave Namaha. He says Pulinda class. So these are different kinds of people that Shukadev Goswami mentioned. So Pulinda class. This lady, tribal lady, belonged to this class, aborigine class. And we find this Pulinda class also has its reference in the Dhenukasur pastime. Because we find Krishna and Balaram, when they went to Talwan. Yes, thank you so much, Raj Prabhu. Prabhuji has put the reference. So we find that Dhenukasur, when Dhenukasur was killed by Krishna and Balaram, the two transcendental brothers, and Dhenukasur was killed in the forest called as Talwan. Tal is basically a fruit. So that forest that is abundant with tal fruit is called as Talwan. So when Dhenukasur and the ass demon, they were whirled around by Krishna and Balaram, and they were whirled around and thrown on the trees, many of the tal fruits, they fell to the ground. And when these fruits fell to the ground, they got mixed with the blood of Dhenukasur. Now, because the fruits had got mixed with the blood of Dhenukasur, it had become muchi. It had become contaminated. And now Krishna and Balaram naturally did not accept the fruits that were muchi because they have very high standards. So they did not accept it. But our acharyas say that the Pulinda class, the aborigine class who were there in those villages, they came and they tasted those fruits because they don't have such high standards. They don't maintain such high Brahminical standards. So they came and they enjoyed these fruits that were there. So there also we find the mention of the Pulinda class. So at the end of the day, after Dhenukasur was killed, some Brajavasis were definitely benefited. If not Krishna and Balaram for the fruits, the Pulinda class were definitely benefited. They got the benefit of eating those fruits. So this lady, she lived on the outskirts of Mathura, and how did she maintain herself? She lived deep inside the forest, and from inside the forest, she somehow had this knack of getting the most sweetest, juicy fruits. She would somehow get the sweetest mango fruits, the sweetest oranges, the sweetest pilu fruits, and she would make a straw basket, put those fruits on the straw basket, and go from village to village to sell these fruits. She had one daughter, and that daughter was also married off. So she would maintain herself just by going to village and selling these sweet fruits. Now the question arises, how did she know whether the sweets were fruit or not? Did she taste it? And the answer is no. She did not taste them. So again the follow-up question, that if she did not taste the fruits, how did she know the fruits were sweet? And for this, our acharyas very beautifully, they draw parallels. They give the example of Shabari from the Ramayana. You see, in Ramayana, there's a personality by the name Shabari. And Shabari, she would take the fruit and she would taste, and then she would give to Maryada Purushottam Sri Ramachandra. But the reason she would do that is those fruits were kapita fruit. So kapita fruit are those fruits that are meant for the monkeys. Kapita basically means a monkey. So the kapita fruits are those fruits that are meant for the monkeys. And this is the reason Shabari would eat those fruits and make sure whether they are sweet. And if they are sweet, she would give it to Sri Ram. It's interesting, it's Dasera and we are drawing parallels with the pastime of Sri Ram, yes. So she would give this fruit, the kapita fruit, to Prabhu Sri Ram. But these fruits that are there, that are described for the fruit vendor, these fruits are not kapita fruits. these fruits are meant for human consumption. The oranges, mangoes, pilo fruits are meant for human consumption, and naturally our acharyas say there was no need for her to taste. Because in the case of Shabari, those fruits are meant for the monkeys. But here the fruits are meant for the human beings. So there was no need for her to taste and give out the fruit. So in Ramayana it was Kapita fruit, but here the fruits are human consumption. And now when she would take these fruits and go from village to village, all the kids, she was very popular amongst the kids. The kids would just leave everything to the side and they would run to this lady. They would run to this Mataji and they would say, I want this mango fruit. I want this pilo fruit. And some kids would say, I want this orange fruit. And we see the same thing even in this world. When the kids are playing in the park and we see when an ice cream truck comes, ice cream van, the kids leave everything to the side and they go to that ice cream van. So if we see everything has its origin in the spiritual world. It is happening in that world because of which the reflection is seen in this world. So similarly, the kids would leave everything to the side and they would say, oh Maya, I want mango fruit. Oh, I want oranges. I want the pilo fruits. So these pilo fruits, what are these pilo fruits? These pilo fruits are small in size. Their seeds are brittle in nature and they are very sour in taste. And we find this pilo fruit has its reference even in the pastimes of Gauranga Mahaprabhu. When Gauranga Mahaprabhu was in Neelachal, Jagadananda Pandit, he would go to Nadia, he would go to Navadvip and get the pilo fruits for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also loves these pilo fruits very much. So much so that the friends of Sri Krishna also love the pilo fruits. So the pilo fruits are small, the seeds are brittle in nature and they are a little sour. So she would go around and she would distribute these fruits. And she was very popular amongst all the kids. Now another question arises here. Why was the forest producing sweet fruits? She was getting the sweet fruits, but why was the forest producing sweet fruits? And our Acharya is very beautifully. You see, our Acharyas and Srila Prabhupada, they are so deep when they write the Bhaktivedanta purports. They do not just take anything at face value. They go deep into the pastime and give every single detail. Why this happened, why that happened, why didn't this happen, so on and so forth. So our Acharyas, they say, why was the forest producing sweet fruits? And the answer is the forest was producing sweet fruits because the forest knew that in another 3 years Krishna is going to come to the forest for Gocharan. Because at this point Krishna is 3 years young. Krishna doesn't get old. Krishna is 3 years young. And when Krishna turned 6, Krishna was given the license to do Gocharan. So the forests were eager. They were thinking to themselves that in another 3 years Krishna is going to come to the forest. So the forest was getting ready that when Krishna comes to the forest, we have to provide him the sweet fruits. When Krishna gets tired after Gocharan, Krishna can eat the sweet mangoes, Krishna can eat the sweet oranges, Krishna can eat the pilo fruits. When Krishna wants to play with his friends, Krishna can take a bear fruit and he can throw with his friends. They can play games like cricket and so many other games. They can play catch. So the forest was also getting ready that Krishna is going to come. So it automatically started producing sweeter and sweeter and sweeter fruits. So once this tribal lady who belonged to this Pulinda class, she went to one particular village and she was distributing these fruits. And when she was distributing these fruits to the kids, she overheard a conversation. A few gopis of that village were discussing and she overheard that conversation. And dear devotees, what was this conversation? This conversation was that of Damodar Leela. The Damodar Leela, as I said, had just taken place. So the news was spreading like a wildfire in Braj Mandal. And now a few gopis of a particular village were discussing about the Dam Bandhan pastime, the Damodar Leela pastime. And this aborigine lady, Pulinda class, tribal lady, when she was distributing fruits, her ears stood up. And she was hearing, wait a minute, Krishna is tied by Maya Yashoda's pure love? She became curious. She became intrigued. And she went to these Braja Gopis. And she just sat down at that place and said, tell me more about Krishna. Aniyor, please tell me more about Krishna. Who is Krishna? And what is this pastime of Damodar Lila? In return, take all my fruits. You see, during those days, there was no dollar bill. The exchange was not in dollar bill. It was not Canadian dollars or American dollars. It was the barter system. So she would give the fruits, and in return, people would give her whatever they had. So here she sat down with the Vraja Gopis, and she said that you don't give me anything. I will give you fruits, but in return you just give me Krishna Katha. Who is Krishna? What is this pastime? Please explain to me more. So when the Vraja Gopis heard this, of that particular village, when they heard this, they said, oh tribal lady, you have not heard about Krishna? Krishna is the son of Nanda Maharaj. He's the son of Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Maya. Yashoda Maya is Vrajeshwari, and their son is Nanda Nandan Shri Krishna. And Krishna is very beautiful in nature. He is very beautiful. It's almost as if all the beauty of all the three worlds has condensed in one person. He is that beautiful. And the tribal lady was hearing. And these Vraja Gopis said, let us explain to you in your language. You understand the language of fruits. So we will explain to you Krishna's beauty in the language of fruits. And the Vraja Gopis, they said, Krishna's beauty, Krishna is so beautiful. Idam te mukham bhojam atyanta nirle vritam kunthalai snigdaratyais gopya mohus chumbitam bimbaraktadarame manasya virastam alam lakshalabhe. He said, oh tribal lady, Krishna is so beautiful that his lips are like freshly cut bimba fruit. You understand the language of fruit, so we are explaining to you in the language of fruits. His lips are like a freshly cut bimba fruit. And his cheeks, oh, his cheeks are reddish in color. Now the question arises, why is Krishna's cheeks red in color? And Satyavrata Muni, in this famous Damodara Ashtakam, he says Krishna's cheeks are red in color because of the constant kissing of Maya Yashoda. Muhus chumbitam bimba. When Krishna is going out for playing, Maya Yashoda will say, oh Lala, please come here, please come. And Krishna will come running. And Maya Yashoda will gently kiss on the cheeks of Krishna. And then she will say, okay, go, now go and play. So because of the repeated kissing, Muhus chumbitam bimba rakta daramme, Krishna's cheeks have become reddish in complexion. And his lips, oh, they are naturally like a freshly cut bimba fruit. So now, this tribal lady, she very well understood what fruits are. She very well knew what bimba fruits are. So she was able to understand Krishna's beauty. Krishna is so beautiful. Prabha apara ati sukumara Shri Krishna. Krishna is so beautiful. Prabha apara ati sukumara. So when this Braja Gopis were explaining the beauty of Shri Krishna, they said that let us tell you something. Few days back, one Gopi from our village, she went to Gokul just to see Krishna. She went to Gokul just to see Krishna. And from a distance, she was looking at Krishna. And when she was looking at Krishna, she was so enamored by the beauty of Krishna that she was stunned. It was jaw-dropping. She was just stunned. And she was looking at Krishna. And Krishna at that time, behind the palace of Nanda Maharaj, was playing in wet mud. Krishna was rolling in the wet mud, holding the tail of the calves, and he was being dragged in Braj Mandal. So this Gopi was just looking at that beautiful sight. And at that time, Krishna left everything and came to this Gopi and said, Maya, do you want something? Oh mother, do you want something? And when this tribal lady heard this, she said, what? Krishna called the lady of your village Maya? Krishna called her mother? Krishna is so merciful. And these gopis said, oh, seems like you don't know the mercy of Krishna. Let us tell you something. When Krishna was just 6 days, Krishna uplifted Putana. Aho bakiyam stanakalakutam jingham sayapaya yadabhyasadhi lebhe gatim dhatrim uchitam tathonyam kamva dayalum sharanam vrajema. O tribal lady, when Krishna was just 6 days, there was a personality by the name Putana who came to kill Krishna. But Krishna is so merciful. Lebhe gatim dhatri muchitam tathonyam. Krishna gave her the position of mother. Krishna gave her the position of nurse. Kamva dayalum sharanam brajema. Who can be more merciful than that Krishna? Someone who came to kill that Krishna, Krishna is giving the position of a mother. So, oh tribal lady, don't be surprised. Putana came to kill, but still she got the position of mother. So this gopi who was there in the village of Sri Krishna, when Krishna asked her, Maya, do you want something? And this lady was surprised, she was stunned, because she didn't want anything. She had just come to see Krishna. So she fell short for words. She was just looking here and there, and she fell short for words. And she said, Krishna, I want those cow dung patty. I have come to collect those cow dung patties. Krishna, will you give me those cow dung patties? And Krishna, when he heard this, Krishna said, I will give you cow dung patties, but what will I get in return? I should also get something in return. So this lady, she said that, Krishna, what do you want? That time Krishna said that I want butter. I don't want anything else. I just want makhan. I want butter. So this lady said, sure, Krishna. For every basket of cow dung patties that you give me, I will give you 1 cup of butter. So the number of baskets that you get, I will give you that many cups of butter. So Krishna was very happy. And Krishna immediately went and was starting to get more and more baskets of cow dung patties. And in return, he was getting more and more butter pots. But Krishna was thinking to himself that I want more and more butter. I want more and more butter. So what should I do? So what this lady, this Braja Gopi was doing was, in return to every cow dung patty that she was getting, she would draw cow dung lines on the cheeks of Krishna as a count. That Krishna, you gave 3 baskets of cow dung patties, you will get 3 cups of butter. So she was drawing lines. But after one point, Krishna was just going back and forth and getting those big baskets of cow dung patties. But Krishna wanted those buttercups also. So what did Krishna do? Krishna took the cow dung patties and he himself started drawing lines. One line after another, he started drawing lines on his cheeks. And he said, oh Maya, see, I have so many lines on my cheeks. You should give me so many buttercups. So in this way, Krishna was performing sweet baby pastimes. And finally, this Braja Gopi, after seeing Krishna, she came back to the village and narrated this pastime to her friends. And now these Braja Gopis were narrating the same pastime to this tribal lady. So that's the connection. So now when this tribal lady heard, she was enamored. She said, what? Krishna calls even Putana a mother? Krishna calls everyone her mother. Will Krishna call me as also his mother? These Braja Gopis said, if Krishna can call Putana his mother, why will he not call you as his mother? He will definitely call you as his mother. So at that time, this tribal lady, this aborigine Pulinda class lady, she asked the Braja Gopis that where is Krishna? Where does he live? And what does he like? So they said, oh, Krishna likes butter. She said, oh, butter? I am not very rich. I don't have makhan. I cannot afford butter. Is there anything else he likes? So they said, oh, Krishna likes fruits also. Krishna loves fruits. So probably you can give fruits. So she was very happy. She said, fruits, yes. I have this forte of getting the best fruits from the forest. So I can definitely find the best fruits for Krishna. And she asked, where does Krishna live? So they said, oh, Krishna, you have to cross Yamuna, walk 7 miles, And then there is a place called as Gokul Mahavan. Krishna is there with his parents. So you have to cross Yamuna, walk 7 miles, and then you will come to Gokul Mahavan. So she was very excited. Next day morning, she went deep into the forest, got the best of the fruits, and she came to the banks of Jamuna. But when she came to the banks of Jamuna, the boatmen were charging money. Now she didn't have any money. She didn't have anything to offer to them. So she was thinking, what can I do? And here our Acharyas say that at that time she was so eager, she made a makeshift boat, dear devotees. Look at the eagerness, look at the thirst to see Krishna. She makes a makeshift boat out of the banana leaves, banana trunk, all the leaves that are there on the trees. She collects all of them, prepares a makeshift boat, sits on the makeshift boat, crosses Jamuna, and now walks 7 miles with the basket of heavy fruits on her head. And now she reaches Gokul Mahavan. Now please hear this, dear devotees, very carefully. She reaches Gokul Mahavan after preparing a makeshift boat, crossing the Yamuna, walks 7 miles. And now all the way she was constantly thinking about Krishna. How beautiful Krishna is. He is like Mega Sham, he is Navajaladhara Sham, he is Ghana Sham. He called Putana his mother. How beautiful he is. And now when she entered the forest, when she entered Gokul Mahavan, rather than saying, oh, please take oranges, please take mangoes, please take pilu fruits, rather than saying this, what was she saying? She was so absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna that she started saying, Govinda Damodhar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodhar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodhar Madhaveti. What is the reference? Srila Bilvamangala Thakur. He says, Vikretu Kama Khila Gopa Kanya Murari Padar Pita Chitta Vritti Dadyadikam Ho Havashada Mocha Govinda Damodhara Madhaveti. Bilvamangala Thakur in his work, he comments on this pastime. He says, Vikretu Kama Khila Gopa Kanya. One Gopa Kanya having a basket of fruits. What was the desire? Vikretu. No, in Hindi we say Vikriti, means to sell. Fal bechna. So she wanted to sell these fruits. But in the desire, in the attempt of selling these fruits, how was her mind absorbed? Murari Padar Pita Chitta Vritti. Her mind was absorbed in the lotus feet of Murari Shri Krishna. And because her mind was absorbed in the lotus feet of Murari Shri Krishna, rather than saying, orange lelo, sep lelo, aam lelo, she was saying, Govind lelo, Damodar lelo, Madhav lelo, Govinda Damodhar Madhaveti. And now when the kids who were there, they heard and they started laughing. They were small kids. They started laughing and they were thinking, what is she saying? She should be saying mangoes and perus and pilu. But what is she saying? She's taking the name of our friend. Because you see, the friends of Krishna, they don't consider Krishna as Bhagavan. The Brajavasis don't consider Krishna as Bhagavan. So the kids were laughing. They were thinking that she is calling out the name of our friend. What has happened? So she was chanting this way. And all day long, Bilvamangala Thakur, he says that all day long she was chanting Govinda Damodara Madhaveti, Govinda Damodara Madhaveti. In her heart, she was thinking that, oh Krishna, I cannot enter any house. Why? Because I'm poor in the class. I'm not very high. So I cannot enter any of the houses. But Krishna, you have to only come out. Krishna, I am calling you. Please come out. You know that I cannot enter. So only if you come out will my eyes become successful. The perfection of the eyes, Shukadev Goswami says, is to see the form of Krishna. Drishti satam darshanestu bhavat tanunam. Canto 10 Srimad Bhagavatam. The eyes become perfect when we see the deities of the Lord. The eyes become perfect when we see the Sakshat form of Sri Krishna or Sri Gauranga Mahaprabhu or any form of the Supreme Lord. So she was praying that I am pulling the class, I cannot come inside, but Krishna, you can come outside. Please come out, my dear Lord, please come out. And that whole day, dear devotees, from morning to evening, she was calling out the name of Govinda, Damodar, Madhaveti. But Krishna did not come out, dear devotees. The whole day she was chanting, Krishna did not come out. But she did not lose hope. She again made a makeshift boat, went back, she crossed Yamuna, she walked again 7 miles, went back to her village, and the next day she again did the same thing. Again she made a makeshift boat, again crossed Yamuna, again walked 7 miles, and came to Gokul Mahavan, and again chanted the names of Govinda, Damodar, Madhaveti, just to look at the form of Krishna once. And that whole day also, dear devotees, Krishna did not come out. Krishna did not come out that day also. The third day, again she came, she again tried. And dear devotees, the third day also Krishna did not come out. For 3 days Krishna was testing her. She was coming all the way from the rural parts of Mathura, Brajmandal, but Krishna did not come out for 3 days after repeatedly calling his name. She again came the 4th day, and she was calling out, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti, Govinda Damodar Madhaveti. He was constantly calling out, Govinda, Govinda, Govinda. And she was thinking to herself that, Krishna, if today you don't come out, I will jump into Yamuna and give up my life. What is the purpose of my life if I am not able to see Krishna? I am coming all the way, and Krishna, if you think I am not qualified, then what is the purpose of my existence? I will jump into Yamuna and give up my life. So when she was thinking this way, Krishna as Paramatma understood her desire. And at that time, our Acharya say, Krishna was sitting on the lap of Maya Yashoda. Krishna jumped from the lap of Maya Yashoda, took a palmful of grains in his hand, and he stormed out of the house. With a palmful of grains, he just stormed out of the house. And he came to this aborigine lady, this fruit vendor. And she said, and Krishna, he said that, can you give me some fruits? I want to taste some fruits that you have. Can you give me these mangoes and pilus and oranges? This fruit vendor, she was stunned. She could not speak anything. Her jaw was just jaw dropping. She was just looking at the beauty of Krishna. All that she had heard, now she was seeing that beauty of Krishna in front of her eyes. She couldn't speak anything. And Krishna said, can you give me some fruits? I have come here for some fruits. And this fruit vendor, she said, I will give you some fruits, but what will you give in return, Krishna? You should also give something in return. And at that time, Krishna said, of course I will give you something in return. And Krishna, very confidently, he stretched his arm. Krishna stretched his hand and he opened his palm and said, all these grains are for you. Whatever the grains you see, all these grains are for you. And when the fruit vendor she saw, she started laughing and she said, Krishna, your hand is empty. There is nothing in your hand. Because our Acharyas, even Prabhupada, as we read in the purport, Prabhupada says that when Krishna was walking from his house, all the grains, it fell from Krishna's hand. Krishna has a chotu, small hand, small palm, so to say. So when Krishna was holding the grains, by the time he came outside, all these grains fell. And Krishna didn't realize. But very confidently, Krishna showed his hand that you can take whatever you want. So it's very interesting that in verse number 10, in the previous verse, Krishna is referred as Achyuta. Chuta means to fall. Achyuta means that personality who never falls from his position. So in verse 10, Krishna is addressed as Achyuta. But in verse 11, we find Shukadev Goswami addresses Krishna as Chuta Dhanya. That Achyuta who doesn't fall from his position, from his hands the grains were falling. So it's so beautiful. It's just play of words. He who doesn't fall from his position, from his hands, Chuta Dhanya, from his hands grains were falling. So Krishna's palm was completely empty. Now Krishna was thinking to himself, wait a minute, I brought all the grains, but there is nothing in my hand. So this fruit vendor, she was smiling and she said, Krishna, rather than giving grains, if I ask you for two things, will you give me? I want two things. Will you give me that, Krishna? And Krishna said, what is that? What do you want from me? She said, I will give you all the fruits. All the fruits in this basket are for you. But I just want two things. And those two things are, Krishna, first, I want you to sit on my lap. And second, you should call me Maya. You call that lady also Maya. You call Putana also Maya. I want that you should also call me Maya. Sit on my lap and call me Maya. So Krishna immediately looked around just to see that no one was seeing. And Krishna immediately sat on the lap of this lady, this tribal lady, the fruit vendor. And she said, Maya, will you give me some fruits? And as bonus, as addition, Krishna also embraced her. That was not asked, but as bonus, Krishna also embraced her. And Krishna immediately got up and said, now you have got these two things and you have got the bonus of my embrace. Will you give me these fruits? And the fruit vendor, it's almost like the fruit vendor was in cloud 9. She was ecstatic. She was completely ecstatic. Romanchakam pashrutaranga bhajo vande guru shri charanarabindam. Hair standing on hand, tears flowing from her eyes, skin going pale, all the ecstatic symptoms, because Krishna sat on her lap, called her Maya, and also embraced her. So immediately the fruit vendor took all the fruits that she had and she started giving it to Krishna. But Krishna's hands are small. Krishna, how can Krishna take all the fruits? So Krishna immediately invoked all his Shaktis. He invoked all his Shaktis and said, please help me. I want to take all these fruits, but my hands are small. All my Shaktis, please come and help me. So all of Krishna's Shaktis, they came and they helped Krishna hold on to all these fruits. And Krishna, with all these fruits, he ran inside his home, inside Nanda Mahal. He went inside and he told Maya Yashoda, he took the fruits and dropped all the fruits to the ground because Krishna was tired holding on to the fruits. Because for such a short distance, Krishna is only 3 years. So holding on to all those fruits, Krishna was very tired. So he dropped all the fruits to the ground and said, Maya Yashoda, oh my dear mother, today we will have a fruit party. I have got so many fruits. Today we will have a fruit party. Please invite everyone who is there and we will cut and give them fruits. So Yashoda invited everyone, all the Brajagopis, all of Krishna's friends, everyone came. And Maya Yashoda had the fruits and Krishna was picking the fruits from Maya Yashoda and giving it to his friends. And so much so that our Acharyas described, it was almost like Akshay Patra. The fruits were never ending, dear devotees. The Brajavasis are coming and Krishna was distributing these fruits constantly. So much so that till the end of evening, Krishna was distributing these fruits. He was also eating those fruits and he was distributing these fruits. And there was like a nice fruit party. And from a distance, dear devotees, this is the last 2 minutes of our conversation. From a distance, this fruit vendor was seeing this whole sight. She was so happy. She was seeing that her fruits Krishna was eating personally. Krishna was personally giving out to his Brajavasi friends. Krishna was giving out, Maya Yashoda was giving out to the Brajavasis. The fruit vendor who was seeing all this was so happy that all day long till evening, she was just looking at this whole sight. And finally, when the doors of Krishna's house closed, she was still waiting outside. She was still sitting, not able to comprehend that Krishna had sat on her lap and called her Maya and even embraced her. She was still digesting. She was just trying to remember what she had just witnessed. And finally, some ladies of that village, they came and they tapped on her shoulder and said, oh, it's night. I think you should go back to your village. And then she got up. And when she got up, she walked all the way to Yamuna with the basket. But now when she walked to the Yamuna with the basket, she was feeling, wait a minute, why is this basket so heavy? I gave all the fruits to Krishna, but why is this basket so heavy? And when she looked out at those baskets, dear devotees, as Prabhupada describes, were filled with jewels and gold. all the jewels and all the gold was filled in that. Krishna, as a reciprocation, filled the complete basket with jewels. But she thought to herself, what am I supposed to do with all these jewels and gold? I have seen Sakshat Krishna face to face. He is calling me Maya. What am I supposed to do with all these jewels and gold? So she picked up the basket and just threw the basket, all the jewels into Yamuna. She said, I don't want any of these jewels. I want Krishna. My heart and my eyes were thirsty, were eager to see Krishna. I have seen Krishna. Dear devotees, our acharyas say there is only one price that we can pay to get Krishna. Krishna bhakti rasabhavitamati kriyatam yadi kutopi labhyate tatra laulyam. Laulyam, greed. Greed is the only price that we can pay to get Krishna, nothing else. As Prahlad Maharaj says, Manne dhanabhi jana rupa tapashrutojas teja prabhava balapaurusha buddhi yoga nara dhanani baranti pavasya pumsam bhaktya tutoshna bhagavan gajayutapaya. Prahlad Maharaj says, Krishna is not interested in our material qualifications. That does not attract Krishna. All that Krishna looks out. As Srila Radhanand Maharaj very beautifully in one class, he was making this point. All that Krishna looks out is Krishna smells the fragrance of our heart. If in our heart there is bhakti, Krishna accepts us. But if there is anything devoid of bhakti, as Prabhupada in this verse, Prabhupada quotes, Yome bhaktya prayachati. 2 times in that verse the word bhakti is used. If there is bhakti, Krishna accepts us. But if there is no bhakti, and if we are doing everything devoid of bhakti, Krishna never, we never get the attention of Sri Krishna. So this fruit vendor was so eager to look at Krishna that for 4 days she made a makeshift boat. She crossed Yamuna, walked 7 miles, and she was calling out to the names of Govinda, Damodar and Madhaveti, as Shripad Bilva Mangala Thakur describes. And finally, after she threw the basket in Jamuna, she was thinking that all I want only one thing. And that one thing is I want to be addressed as Krishna's mother eternally. I don't want anything else. Just like Putana was addressed as Krishna's mother eternally, I also want that Saubhagya. I also want that position of being addressed as Krishna's mother eternally. And dear devotees, Krishna knew this. As Paramatma, Krishna knows this. Krishna, he came to the banks of Yamuna and he held the hand of this fruit vendor and said, you want to be my mother eternally? I will give you that position. And Krishna held her hand and took her to the spiritual world. Krishna took her to Golok Vrindavan and has given her the position of being eternal mother. That desire that she cherished, Krishna gave her that position. And because she went back home, back to Godhead, in the next day morning, when the Brajavasis came to the bank of Yamuna, her body was just lying on the banks of Yamuna because she had already gone back home, back to Godhead. And the Brajavasis in the morning, they did the last rites for this fruit vendor who, because of her eagerness to look at Sri Krishna, all that she had, what did the fruit vendor have, dear devotees? She had just fruits. And those fruits are also supplied by Krishna. Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. The fruits that she was offering to Krishna, that fruits also belongs to Krishna. But even something as insignificant as fruits, Krishna is ready to accept her and give her the position of eternal mother. So in the morning, when her body was found, the Brajavasis did the last rites for that historic transcendental fruit vendor who had got the darshan of Sri Krishna and who was addressed as the mother. So we find this beautiful pastime is there only in 2 verses in the Bhagavatam. But when we see the commentaries of Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Sridhar Swami and Veer Raghavacharya and so many others like Sripad Sanatana Goswami and Srila Jiva Goswami, they give elaborate purports on this beautiful pastime of the fruit vendor. Having said this, I very humbly want to stop here. Shri Krishna Bhagavan ki jai, the transcendental fruit vendor ki jai, Patita Pavan Srila Prabhupada, Savior of the whole world ki jai, Samasta Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.